take missiles and drone attacks. This is the moment that Europe should step up and put in place the plans for an integrated air protection zone over central and western Ukraine with Sky Shield. It is entirely possible and with entirely manageable risk for European aircraft to get up in the skies over Ukraine, launched from outside Ukraine to shoot down drones and other missiles attacking Ukrainian cities. That would send a really strong message of strength to Russia. Don't mess with us.
This week, the Russian Foreign Minister, Sergei Lavrov, reiterated Putin's rejections of the 30-day ceasefire that Ukraine agreed to straight away. He claimed they require extensive monitoring. They don't think honest monitoring is possible during a 30-day ceasefire, and they have no interest, it would seem, from this. I mean, they just demonstrated again and again no interest in stopping the war right now, do they?
No, they don't. Until they're stopped, until they're brought to a stop, until they're forced to recognise that they can't go any further. They're not interested because they think they can get away with it. And what is happening, as always with Russia, is when they encounter weakness, they continue to push. They have encountered weakness. I mean, the Trump deal is a classic example of weakness because it's pandering to Putin and giving him what he wants. So how does he respond? He demands more, and he'll go on doing so until he's given a very sharp poke in the eye.
President Zelensky had said earlier this week that he had been in discussions with Washington about how to apply pressure on Putin to accept a ceasefire, or at least a cessation in the violence that's acceptable to the Ukrainians. Do you think that after what we saw at the Vatican, the sit down between Trump and Zelensky, and after we've seen this minerals deal signed, do you think that Trump may at last be ready to put more leverage on Russia to bring Putin to the negotiating table in a more honest way?
The only leverage Putin will understand, as I keep on going on about, is if he is met with real force, and his forces are if he is brought to a grinding halt on the battlefield, if his missiles and drones are shot out of the sky by European aircraft, that's the only lesson, the only message that he will get, the only way you're going to stop him. If he is given a chance to take an inch, he will take a mile, and that's what's happening. So talking is no use here. He's got to be met by force, and that brings us back to the discussion about a properly thought through strategy to achieve Russian defeat in Ukraine. And until Trump gets behind such a strategy, then I'm afraid Putin will continue to push. And the chances of that happening are pretty remote.
At that point, then, crippling sanctions wouldn't work.
Oh, I think sanctions are absolutely part of it, absolutely part of it. But I would weave crippling sanctions. I would weave in sanctions. I would weave in a complete cessation of oil exports to Europe and to countries like India, which refine Russian oil and then sell it on to Europe for use in aeroplanes and cars and the like as diesel. No, absolutely. A strategy requires not just military, it requires economics, it requires a whole range of other lines of operation as well.
One of the many objections that the Kremlin has put to the current negotiations over the future status of Crimea and the 4 oblasts partially occupied by Russia at the moment. Do you think that President Zelensky does have to accept that they are at least temporarily lost, even irrespective of a ceasefire or not?
I don't think he does. Now, that's a matter for Ukraine. Of course it is. I would say, for example, that sending a message that it's okay for Russia to have Crimea and for it to be internationally recognized is appalling, because it's sending a message that it's okay to invade your neighbor. It's okay to level your neighbor's cities, to rape the women of that nation, and to massacre civilians and deport and kidnap children. And what sort of a world are we going to live in if that sort of thing is okay? It's simply not okay. And if it comes back to the point, give Russia an inch and they will continue to take a mile.
Yes, and meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal is reporting that Russia is expanding its military infrastructure along the border with Finland, stockpiling new tanks. President Zelensky has also warned of the risk of Russia using military exercises in Belarus as a cover to massively increase its troop presence there. How do you think Europe should be acting to deter any future aggression in this area?
It should be building up its in-place forces. It should be conducting regular exercises which require reinforcement from other NATO countries. I'm thinking back to the world. We're back to a world of in a sense, of the reforger exercises of the Cold War, where on a regular basis NATO rolled out its capability to defend the Central Front. And we need to learn lessons from that in a modern context. So it's about demonstrating strength, effective deterrence, and military capability. And of course, this brings us back, of course, to the old saga about defense budgets.
Just throwing ahead now to the NATO summit in June, Russia's Security Council Secretary Sergei Shoigu told the Kremlin newswire TASS that Russia is updating its national security strategy to take into account the crisis, it calls it, of European security, the formation of a new global order, and the challenges the changing world presents to Russia. What response do you expect from the NATO summit in June when they evaluate their strategic direction?
Right. Well, NATO's got a few things to sort out. I think the first thing NATO's got to sort out is, are the Americans in or out? What is going on with America? Because everything we've heard from America, Trump and his henchmen, the likes of Hegseth and Vance, since the Munich Security Conference, is raising real questions about whether America can be trusted as an ally. Will America come to the aid of a NATO member if attacked? Has it undermined catastrophically the foundations of NATO Article 5 by its words and its actions? So I would think the first thing is to level with America. Are you in? Are you out? You're either in, you're out. You can't be half in, half out. You can't be half pregnant. So come on, what's going on here? And if the answer to that is no, we're not in, then Europe has got, and Canada have got to effectively Europeanize the NATO alliance. So this is a crucial summit. Is that likely to happen? I think it's highly unlikely to happen, because I think there is almost a sort of see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil attitude to all the noises coming out of Trump's America at the moment, because Western European leaders are terrified of getting the wrong answer. But at some stage, NATO has got to level with America and work out which direction America is going in. I think they'll still be hoping for some small fragment of a signal from Trump that, yeah, we're sort of in. That's not good enough, because ultimately this summit is about coming to grips with the issue for European security, which we've been discussing, which is the threat that Russia poses. Coming to grips with the issue of how do we achieve a Europe whole, free, and secure from continued Russian aggression, and hence the need for the sort of strategy that we've been discussing.
So looking at the situation right now in terms of the ongoing stalled negotiations towards a cessation of violence in Ukraine, every day we're seeing continued attacks by Russia on civilians, on infrastructure, on the people, in spite of what they say about wanting peace. What do you think the likelihood there is of a cessation of the attacks in the near future?
I think it's highly unlikely. It's not going to happen. And it'll only happen if Russia is stopped, because the Russian way of war, the Russian way of negotiation, the Russian way of politics, and the Russian way of actually dealing with anybody, including its own people, is brutality, the exercise of raw power and terror. And that is what we're seeing. And the only way you stop that is by standing up to Russia. So what? Take missiles and drone attacks. This is the moment that Europe should step up and put in place the plans for an integrated air protection zone over central and western Ukraine with Sky Shield. It is entirely possible and with entirely manageable risk for European aircraft to get up in the skies over Ukraine, launched from outside Ukraine, to shoot down drones and other missiles being attacking Ukrainian cities. That would send a really strong message of strength to Russia. Don't mess with us. And it's that sort of thing that needs to be done. Talking isn't good enough.
Sir Richard Shirreff, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kate.
You've been watching Frontline for Times Radio with me, Kate Chabot. If you'd like to be the first to get exclusive content, you can sign up for membership with the link below. You can also listen to Times Radio for the latest news or read it on thetimes.com.